Money. It's so much more than the paper in your wallet or the coins in your pocket. It's an idea, a story that we have all collectively agreed to believe in. In this explainer, we're going to uncover the origin of that story, from a very simple human problem to the incredibly complex system that now powers our entire world.
I want you to imagine something. Let's go back in time, way back. Picture a world with no money at all. You're a farmer, and your life is, well, it's simple, but it's tough.
You've had a great harvest. You've got piles of wheat, far more than your family can eat. But what you really need, what you desperately need, is a new axe. The old one's broken, and without it, the work just doesn't get done.
So, you find the local axe maker. You offer him a generous amount of your best wheat, but he just shakes his head. He doesn't need wheat. He needs fish for his family's dinner. To him, right now, your wheat is useless.
And right there, that's the deadlock. That's the problem that stalled human progress for millennia. You have something valuable, but you can't get what you need with it. So, how do you get that axe?
Now, this wasn't just your bad luck. This was a fundamental barrier, a kind of economic puzzle that kept human society small and kept people trapped in poverty for thousands of years.
Economists have a name for this problem. They call it the double coincidence of wants. It's a bit of a mouthful, but it's simple. For a trade to work, you don't just have to find someone who has what you want. They also have to want what you have at the exact same time. The chances of that happening are incredibly slim. Most trades just couldn't happen.
And the problems just keep piling up. What if that axe is only worth half a cow? You can't exactly chop a living animal in two. What about saving for the future? That fish the axe maker wants? It'll rot by tomorrow, destroying its value completely. And maybe the biggest problem of all? How do you even know what a fair trade is? How many fish is one axe worth? How many sheep for a cow? Every single trade becomes a long, difficult negotiation. Barter isn't just inefficient, it's a cage.
So how did we finally break out of this cage? Well, the amazing thing is, money wasn't an invention. No king or genius philosopher came up with the idea. Instead, it just emerged, organically, from millions of people just trying to solve this exact same problem.
People started to realize that some goods were just easier to trade than others, a quality we call salableness. Think about things like salt, or pretty seashells, or even cattle. They were almost universally in demand. So even if you didn't need salt yourself, you'd accept it as payment. Why? Because you were confident that someone else would want it later. These highly saleable goods, they became the world's very first money.
But these first monies were far from perfect. Cattle get sick and die. Salt is heavy and dissolves in the rain. Humanity needed a better solution, something that was durable, easy to divide, and easy to carry. And the answer was found in the earth: metal.
Now, using chunks of gold and silver was a big step up, but you still had to weigh and test the purity of the metal for every single transaction. It was clumsy. Then, around 600 BC, in a kingdom called Lydia, in modern-day Turkey, someone had a revolutionary idea. What if they stamped the metal with an official seal, a guarantee of its weight and purity? And just like that, the coin was born. For the first time, trust was standardized.
This new technology was a game changer. It fueled an explosion of trade. But it all depended on trusting the authority who stamped that coin. And that trust could be abused. Take what happened in 16th century England. King Henry VIII, he needed cash for his extravagant lifestyle and his constant wars. So in 1544, he gave his mints a secret order: melt down the kingdom's coins and make new ones, but with a lot less silver and gold and a lot more cheap copper mixed in. The scale of this fraud was just staggering. Before Henry started this, England's silver coins were more than 92% pure, what we call sterling silver. By 1551, the purity had crashed to just 25%. The king was making himself rich by quietly robbing his own people.
But of course, people caught on. The new coins had such a thin layer of silver that it would wear off quickly, especially from the highest point of the coin's design, which was the king's nose on his portrait. Underneath, you could see the cheap reddish copper. And so the people gave their king a new nickname: Old Copper Nose.
Very quickly, people realized what was going on. They started hoarding the old pure silver coins and would only spend the new worthless copper nose money. And this whole fiasco demonstrated a fundamental economic truth, something we now call Gresham's Law. Bad money always drives out good.
The Great Debasement showed everyone how dangerous it was to have money that could be physically manipulated. So the next step in this story had to be a move away from the metal itself and towards an abstraction, a simple promise written on paper.
This started with goldsmiths. It was risky to keep a lot of gold at home, so people would store it with a smith for safekeeping. In return, they'd get a paper receipt, basically an IOU. Before long, people figured out it was way easier to just trade the paper receipts instead of hauling heavy gold around. The IOUs themselves became money. But then, the goldsmiths had an incredible realization. Not everyone came back for their gold at the same time. This meant they could lend out some of the gold they were just holding on to, creating new loans and new money in the process. And that right there is the foundation of our entire modern banking system. It's called fractional reserve banking. Here's how it works. Let's say you deposit $100 in a bank. The bank only has to keep a fraction of that, say 10% or $10, on hand. It can then loan out the other $90. That $90 then gets deposited by someone else, and the bank can loan out 90% of that. All of a sudden, your original $100 deposit has actually created $190 in the money supply. It's money literally created out of debt. For centuries, even this paper money was still tied to gold. You could, in theory, go to the bank and exchange your paper for a fixed amount of precious metal. But in 1971, that all changed. The link to gold was completely severed. We now live in the age of fiat money. The dollar in your pocket has value simply because the government says it does, by fiat, and because all of us have faith in that government.
So we've journeyed from wheat to shells to metal coins to paper promises and now to purely digital numbers on a screen. Which brings us to the biggest, most important question of all. After all of this evolution, what is money, really?
The deepest truth is that money isn't a physical thing at all. It's a technology, a social invention. It's nothing more and nothing less than a shared agreement, a story that we all agree to tell ourselves about value.
You could say it this way. Money is just trust given a physical form. You don't actually trust the paper itself. You trust that other people will accept that paper from you tomorrow, and they trust that you will too. It's a collective network of belief.
Look at the difference. A gold coin has value because the metal itself is physically rare and useful. A US dollar bill, on the other hand, is just a piece of paper. Its value exists only because we all believe it has value. It's a collective shared dream.
This shared dream has built our civilization. It's created unimaginable wealth and progress. But it all rests on that delicate foundation of pure belief. Which leaves us with one final haunting thought. If that shared belief ever begins to fade, if the dream ends, what is any of it really worth?